Hello and welcome to I guess this is a Normie's review of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. I've just watched it. It dropped at 2 o'clock this morning here in the UK. I set my alarm. I sat in bed and I watched it, and I decided I would approach this without hopefully being too influenced, although aware of the what people are saying, what the fans are saying, and what the so-called toxic fans are saying, though I don't think that is a correct term for anybody. And I thought I would kind of just approach it from a normie point of view, somebody who's not like a fan in the sense of I wouldn't go out and buy figurines of any of the characters. I wouldn't read comics. I wouldn't buy anything around the films from of Tolkien, apart from maybe read the books, which I'm quite inspired to do, to be honest. But also somebody who has recently come to the conclusion that when the original Lord of the Rings came out, I kind of didn't really get caught up in the hype around the Peter Jackson films. And I remember being quite critical of them at the time when they came out, especially The Hobbit, which was in super crisp format. It kind of looked weird to me. But now I watch them kind of retrospectively. You know, it's kind of like a nice, oh, I'll put The Hobbit on this evening on a Sunday afternoon or whatever, and you kind of go down the rabbit hole for the evening of watching Lord of the Rings films, and it's a quite pleasant thing to do. So they've become kind of like a staple go-to view, and as a result of that, I've actually warmed to the characters and the actors who play those characters in the what I would call the original Lord of the Rings films by Peter Jackson. And it is just a phenomenal thing that he achieved by making those. And I think from what I have read of Tolkien before the films were made, they seem to be a very, very much done in the tone that I'd imagined Tolkien's world would be. If that makes sense. So I'm somebody who didn't originally like Peter Jackson's films when they first came out in the cinema. In fact, I even yelled at the screen at one point, "Please end," which is just a stupid thing to do, but it's genuinely so frustrating and so long. It was a very difficult thing to watch at the cinema for me. But as I say, now I watch them, I really enjoy them. So I came to watch The Rings of Power a little bit jaded by what people had said and seen, put off by actors talking on red carpets about anything but the stories, anything, no excitement at all about what the project they were making, just more excited about the political aspect of them as individuals being involved in it, and you know, the color of their skin or or their gender or anything like that is what seemed to be the noise that overtook the passion for making good film or a good program, and that kind of like jaded me a little bit. I wish that actors would stop doing that. They would stay off Twitter and stop telling interviewers that it's so fantastic to be the first representation of this and the representation of that, because I just honestly couldn't care less. But I've done a little bit of research. I'm not going to just blab away about this ignorantly. This is like a normie review. So if you are somebody who's like knows everything about everything, then you're going to hate what I'm going to say, because you'll think I'm so stupid. But if you're just a normie like me, the rights for the film, the rights were bought for $250 million in 2017 to make 5 seasons, which is like one, over $1 billion budget. It was going to be developed by virtual unknowns J.D. Payne and Patrick Mackay, who hadn't really done too much. Certainly, I wouldn't have said were experienced showrunners. So already alarm bells are going insane in my brain. I don't know why this happens. I don't know. This is a website that sells pots and pans to people for their kitchen, making TV shows. So I'm not quite sure who the guy who sets a website like that up, what on earth he thinks he knows about getting the right people appointed. I don't know how stuff like that happens. The second season is going to start filming next month, which is October 2022. The first season's already done, I guess, in the bag. It starts off with, you know, sort of the start of the arc of a young girl with her male friends. I think they're all boys, like playing outside in the fields, and there's a little river, and she makes a boat, and she sets the boat to sail, and of course she makes the perfect boat that unravels itself as it travels down the river, and it's so perfect, and she's so clever, and she does that, and then the boys bully her and throw stones at it and sink it, and she's devastated, and this is going to like change her life for the rest of her life. So boys are bad right off the bat. It's kind of odd. I thought most girls were bullied by other girls, but it seems to be that in this instance she was particularly bullied by boys. But this is, what's her name? The character's called Galadriel. Galadriel. I've got to get pronunciation correct if I can. I also noticed that they were all wearing like these weird, like linen-y costumes. I thought they was really plain, and I didn't really understand why things were so simple. But I guess that's just what it's like in elf world. And also, as we meet her brother, for some reason he's wandering around, talking to her like some weirdo. I mean, he talks like a weirdo. Like when the stone falls, it looks to sinking, whereas the boat looks to float. He's like, what are you talking about, mate? What are you on about? You're a nutter. And they're like 3 or 4 miles away from the town that they live in, the elf town that they live in. So he kind of like says all this weird stuff to her, and then he sort of wanders off back, leaves her where she is, and she's only a little kid. But I did notice I was checking out like the hairline of his hair, and it was just it was so fresh, so obviously freshly cut. I mean, I'm a guy, I've got a beard at the minute. I know exactly how long my hair will be within 7 days. If you want to see hair growth after 7 days, look at Dr. Disrespect on a Monday morning, and then look at him on a Friday, and you'll see what 5 days looks like at least. But so his hair is getting trimmed every single day, and they've got really good salons in Elfland and across all the lands, it would seem. The show looks. Somebody's very good at doing these graphics, but not very good at either shooting CGI and green screen, because the lighting isn't quite matching. You can people look cut out. I'm not quite sure why that happens. There is a skill to, you can't just put a green screen and film people. You need to do the backlighting of the people in front of the screen. I mean, I don't know what's happening, but there's a couple of things where I'm thinking why did the director let that go? And there's some terrible crossing the line and breaking some of the rules. And some people might think, oh, rules, rules are for breaking. Well, they're not. Because if it's important to establish the geography of who's talking to who at whatever given time, sometimes the rules are very, very important, and they're there to help tell the story. And if you break them, then you're making it harder. You're distracting people from the story, and I think that happens a couple of times. So she sets out. The brother is on a quest to find Sauron and kill him, and gets killed himself, and she then takes over the quest to try and kill Sauron, and she treks through wildernesses with her team, always steaming ahead and leaving them behind. What a fantastic leader she is. And they're kind of like looking at her as she's like climbing up the mountain, and they're still struggling, and she's better than them. She's better than everybody. She makes the best, just like she made the best little boat on the stream that anyone can ever make that unravels itself. She's the best at climbing. She's the best at everything. And she's not very nice. She's not pleasant. She's not somebody that you feel is compassionate. She doesn't even seem to be liked by her own crew. And it turns out that they give up on her and say, we quit. We think you suck. She ignores their doubts and their pleas to like give up. She's a terrible leader. And And there's another thing happening within the show, which is kind of jarred for me, which was that we kept jumping between locations lazily using a transition of a map to say, oh, you're here now, and now we're moving over to here to tell you a story. And that takes like a few seconds to do. It's very television, that. But when you landed at the place we were going to be, it just felt weird because sometimes it'd be the same character who had just left the previous location, and you there was no sense of trek or anything. There was no, there's no sense of distance. Everything seems to be like people can just be transported to areas without journeys being really, really difficult, which of course before flight was really difficult. And that's what these films and these shows should be about these massive lands that you have to traverse, and all the hurdles and problems that you meet trying to get from A to B. But it's just done with a map, no problems. And I didn't quite understand that. We meet her gay her gay friend Elrond. Lovely coiffured hair, very very well presented. He's there lamenting, writing his poetry in a tree, pretentiously la di da di dum, and then some female guards come and tell him, or assistants, whatever they are, aides, come and tell him that the girl's back. And he's like, oh, is she? And he's really excited. And he meets her and he's kind of indifferent. And they just chat, and he's not like bothered anymore. He's not, the excitement he had for her being back disappears almost immediately. I don't know, that is just bad direction, I think. It's like the director, for the scene when he meets her after she's been away for so long, the director's just completely forgotten how he acted when he heard the news she was back. And that is it's just naive directing. It requires a note that you need to be conscious as a director of the energy levels as one character transitions into another scene. If you're lucky, the actor will remember it for you. But if you've got young and inexperienced actors, they're just not going to do it. It's not their fault. They're young and inexperienced. I'm doing some of my notes here. He tells her there's no bad anymore, and there's Sauron's not a problem anymore. There's nothing bad to worry about, and the king wants to see you, and he's going to send you back to our original land. That's our homeland. That's what's going to happen. And then you see some amazing CGI of them all standing on a boat with their swords, and it's all kind of like, oh, and then the sky opens up and a bright light comes out, and I don't know what's going on at that point. I have no idea what's happening. She decides she doesn't want to go. It all looks a little bit computer gamey, It doesn't look the money, the $250 million. It doesn't look like $1 billion budget. I don't know, I heard it's something like 60 million per episode. It doesn't look it to me. She jumps in the water. And immediately, in this massive, well, we've seen the map, and it's a massive ocean where there really isn't, they're in the middle of nowhere, but she jumps in the water and just immediately starts swimming back the way she came. That's her plan. This brilliant leader, that's her plan. And she does that, and immediately comes across a raft with a group of people on it, and they're all nasty to her. And they discover she's an elf, so there's like the racism's there almost immediately. And then this big, like, I don't know, big Loch Ness monster type thing attacks them, and she's thrown back overboard because she's the bringer of bad things. And the big snake monster attacks that raft, and they all disappear and die, I think. And then the raft reappears and picks her up again, and the raft's okay. It's not been damaged, even though we've seen it been smashed to pieces. And it's got the young lad on it who's got stubble. I think they say they've been at sea for 2 weeks or something. He's got like 4 days worth of growth on his face. So they've brought his shaving kits with them, which is really good. Although they don't have enough water to drink, but they've brought their shaving kits, so that's good. Meanwhile, we find out from Elrond and Celebror, who I think is the chief of the elves, that there's a plan to build the biggest forge ever made. And why would you be making a forge? We don't know. I think this is supposed to be a twist or something for us, but obviously it's for doing the rings, making rings. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? It's stupid. It's so stupid. And they decide that and then we see we need to go to the dwarves to help us make this forge. They're really good at doing that kind of stuff. So again, we see the map transition to a tiny doorway, which is the dwarf kingdom, and Elrond and is it Celebrimobor turn up. After this journey across the water, shaven, coiffure, only wearing like robes, no bags, no food, no sticks, no nothing. There's no. It's like they just walked around the corner into their garden. It's so bizarre. And then you see this doorway, and it's just like slate on the ground. There's no build up to the doorway. There's no entrance. There's no. It's just like a big kingdom, and there's no pathway to it. It's just a door. I didn't quite get that. And then it's quite nice seeing the dwarfs. They look quite good with the guards, with their helmets and the armor going around their beards. I thought it was nice that they invented armor for their beards. I thought it was quite sweet. And then we met this dwarf world where we encountered a character. What was his name? I think it's called Prince Owain Arthur, something like that. He was immediately cucked by his wife, his traditional wife that he has, saying, "Oh no, you must stay for dinner." After he'd said, "You're definitely not staying for dinner." Meanwhile, there's this other thing happening of this massive, what looks like a meteorite crashing to the ground, and it like keeps looking like it's going to land every shot. What's going to land? Oh no, it cuts away to more people looking. Oh, it's still flying. It's doing that bit again. Keeps doing the same trajectory over and over. Eventually crashes, and there's fire everywhere. And the characters who are hobbits, but they're actually called Harfoots, which are a type of hobbit. Although I don't think they're allowed to say they're hobbits because they've contractually obliged to not say it. I'm sorry this is going on so long, but it's kind of what happens. This meteorite thing lands, and there's a pit, and in it there's a man curled up, and one of the hobbits, the Harfoots, goes in, and apparently it's not hot, and the man comes out, and he does this thing where he bends the trees, and it's obviously Gandalf. But we're being told it's just the stranger. Even all the interviews are talking about stranger. We're not stupid. It's obviously Gandalf. We're not dumb. He does this thing with the fireflies making the stars in the sky. And that's kind of where we sort of leave it. So I was drifting between drifting off and kind of interested. And now my feeling is no excitement whatsoever. Not like the kind of excitement you get after watching something like The Boys or something that's fresh and new. This feels like a watered down Christmas card-like version of Lord of the Rings. You don't feel like characters are connected to the environments they're in. You know what I mean? You don't feel settled anywhere. You don't feel familiar with where they live and how their relationships to each other. The main hero is a character that we don't like. Nobody likes, really. Which I think's it's a big problem. I feel kind of bad for them, really. Because, you kind of want it to be successful for all these young actors. There's something else going on with the orcs and a character called Aronder, who's like the black elf with the shaved head. Beverly, everyone just looks so clean and tidy and kempt. I hope we're going to see that happening, so it feels justified in a way. Even Star Trek had to, featured the barbers in episodes, so we had it explained to us how they were so well trimmed all the time. So Arender meets, I can't remember the name of the woman, but it's a woman, is it Bronwyn, who is kind of a I don't know what she is, but she does potions and stuff. She's a healer, and he loves her. And there's one point where she just leaves her son alone, and there's something going on with the son and finding a dagger or a knife or a sword, I think it is. And he goes off and he finds an orc. Was it? Kills the orc. I mean, I don't know. I was so disinterested at that point. So this is my summary. Just to wrap this up, because it's gone on way too long talking about this, is that I just do not care. I might come back to it at some point, but it feels like, it's just another click on my Amazon Prime. Might watch it, might not. Probably won't, to be honest with you. It's kind of... I wish I knew more about the characters. I wish I cared about the characters. I wish I liked any of them. I don't really. I wish the actors hadn't wagged their fingers at the audience before the thing had even gone on air. I wish there hadn't been all the noise about it on Twitter from people screaming and yelling that it's absolutely fantastic before they'd even seen it. And likewise, people say it's going to be terrible before they'd even seen it, which you can kind of get an idea. I mean, it's going to be... if the only thing people can find good to say about it is the fact that it's got diversity in it, if that's the only good thing people can find to say about it, then it's obviously not very good in terms of a story. And yeah, I think I'll stick to just buying pots and pans from Amazon instead of watching something like this. Let me know what you think. I also, if you do let me know what you think, can you tell me your background and your interest in it? Are you just a normie, or are you an avid fan? And how far away am I from understanding what I'm seeing? Because I feel like I don't really know what's going on. I'm kind of following it, but I just don't care. So I'm not going to bother following it anymore. And I won't be reviewing anymore. I think I'm done with it. Episode 1 and 2 is fine for me. I'm done. Yeah. Thanks for making it. Thanks for kind of passing my time for a couple of hours. Money well spent. Anyway, I'm wondering if you've got any of those like Tefal pots and pans for me on your website, guys. So I need to buy some for the kitchen.